Okay, now that we've prepared for getting IMU by getting a PC with dual monitor output and our SIM card and so forth, we'll go ahead and open the box and start installing the software, putting this sucker together. So we've got our modem here. The very first thing you need to do is attach the antenna to it, and it screws on just like a water hose screws on to a spigot. I screw it to where it's nice and tight. The antenna should be pointing up like that. Next thing to do is insert the SIM that you got from your friendly neighborhood mobile phone supplier. You open the little door in front that's made out of rubber. You just remove it and insert the SIM. Now the SIM goes in only one direction. Actually, it'll fit in a number of directions, but it'll only work one way. If you take a very close look at that SIM card, you'll notice that it's got a notch in it. It's pretty rectangular with the exception of one little notch down there in the lower right hand corner. And we'll tilt the modem upward a little bit so that you can see in there, and there's a little paint stripe that also has that notch. And that's trying to help you to understand that the SIM goes in that direction. If we flip the SIM over, you can see that there's gold fingers on it. Those gold fingers go facing downward. The SIM just inserts right underneath. There's like a little metal strap there, and it slides into place. Make sure that the little notch is on the right hand side, and then you could go ahead and put that little rubber door back on. And actually, there's one thing about that rubber door that it will only really go back on if the SIM was inserted correctly, because that notch actually has a mating feature in the rubber door. And if you don't have the notch in the right place, that door will kind of, it won't really like to go back on there. So it's very important to get that SIM in correctly. If it's not in correctly, then the modem won't work. So now that we have the antenna attached to the modem and the SIM installed in the modem, you can go ahead and take the USB cable, attach that to the modem, and the other end is going to be plugged into the PC. We're not going to be plugging in just yet, but that's how it goes. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is take the software out and install it in the PC. The actual software installation instructions are on the inside cover of the CD jewel case. So we'll take the CD out and insert it into the CD drive. There we go. And pop the CD in. So as soon as you close the drive, within a few seconds, the PC should recognize the CD and automatically start the installation procedure. Just like that. And this works about like any other software installation process. Comes up with a step-by-step procedure. Go ahead and click Next. Asks us where we want to install it. The default directory is usually a pretty safe bet, so I'll just go ahead and press Next. Do I want to create backup? In this case, we haven't even installed software, but it doesn't matter. I'll say yes. And we'll go ahead and install the software. Installs pretty quickly. And click Finish. And that's pretty much all there is to it, to installing the software itself. Now that we've installed the software, I'm going to leave the installation CD in the drive, and I'm going to plug the modem into the PC. And what that's going to do is the driver for the modem is on the CD, and so by installing the software first and then the modem second, the CD that I need is already in the PC. Alright, so we have the modem here. Well, here's the cable that we installed a little earlier. And I'm just going to plug this into a USB port. And it just recognized that the modem was connected. One thing that I want to point out right now is that when you first plug this in, the lights on the modem will either not be lighting at all or they'll just barely be lighting. If I kind of cover this and cup this, what I can see is that the power light and the CD light are very, very dimly illuminated. Some people get alarmed at this point. They plug the modem in and they expect to immediately see some lights. USB products don't really work that way. There's a process called enumeration, and that is the software has actually got to go out there and reach out and touch that modem in order to turn that power on. In this case, the software driver hasn't even been installed, so it hasn't had a chance to go out there and reach out and touch that modem. So that's what we're going to do now. We plug the cable in, the Found New Hardware wizard starts, and so what we're going to do is go ahead and install the software driver, which, as I said, is sitting right here on the CD. So it says, welcome to the new hardware found wizard. You want to go check the internet for the latest version of the drivers. You say no. Not at this time. Click next. And so it'll say, you want to install the software automatically? Recommended. And we say yes. And it goes out there and looks at the different drives and finds that we have the driver right there. There's a hardware installation notice that comes up here that says that the driver wasn't signed. This is actually a common occurrence with drivers. Most of them aren't signed. So you just go ahead and say continue anyway. And in fact, this modem needs 2 drivers to operate. So you'll see this process happen twice. I'm going to hit click finish. And now you'll notice that the lights are on, but we're not done yet. There's one more driver that needs to be installed, and it automatically recognizes it needs to be installed. And it comes back up to the hardware newfound wizard. We say, once again, no, not at this time. And yes, go ahead and install it automatically. And continue anyway, just like we did last time. Goes out, gets the second part of the driver. Click finish. And there we go. Everything is ready to roll. It says, your new hardware is installed and ready to use. That's what we like to see. There's one more part to this, which is that we've installed the SIM into the modem in a previous step. When everything's working right with the modem, and this is one of the things that you need to be kind of a little bit cognizant of, not only during the installation process, but also during the operational process. Maybe each next time you go to another gig, turn on the computer, what have you. There's a light here that says LS. That's the signal level indicator light. You'll notice that that LS light is flashing. Some mobile phones have a light that flashes. As long as that light's flashing, everything's happy. That means that the modem is receiving signal and it's ready to process the messages. If the light is not flashing, for example, if it's on solid, that's an indication of a problem. And it could be a couple of problems. One source of the problem could be that you forgot to install the antenna. And then in fact, in a second, you'll notice that this is going to turn on solid. I've removed the antenna. Once this modem has figured out that it doesn't have any signal, it'll go on solid, just like that. If it's on solid, you may as well figure out why it's on solid, because it's not going to receive any text messages. This thing's got to be lighting in order for text messages to be received and sent. So if it's not lighting, it could be an antenna problem. It could be that the SIM is not inserted correctly. We had a client of ours up in Canada who we went back and forth on the phone, and everything seemed correct, and we had the right modem, antenna was correct, everything was connected correctly, but the LS light was on solid. Turns out the SIM was inserted upside down. So that's why it's important to get that in there. The modem gives us a little clue that it's incorrectly because it flashes. And the third possible cause that of the LS light being on solid is that you're in an area that doesn't have any cell phone reception. And that is pretty easy to settle, because most of the time you're going to have a mobile phone of your own. Take the mobile phone out, see how the reception is. If you've got no signal, this thing's might not have any signal either. So there's a couple of reasons why that LS light might be on solid. So, but in this case, it's flashing. We're all ready to go. One more thing. You'll notice that I plugged the modem into this USB port right here. We installed the drivers into that port, and now it's ready to go. One thing is to be aware of the way PCs work. These ports, once you plug something into them, they really like to have the thing plugged into that same port over and over again. Now let's say you get onto a show site, and in the heat of the moment everything's gone, and you know, it's just a port, right? It's just, you just plug it in. Well, let's say you plug it into a different USB port. Well, what will happen is the software, the system, the PC will recognize that it hasn't installed the driver for that port yet. This may be alarming because it'll ask for the installation CD and say, wait a second, I left the installation CD back at the home office, and that's 50 miles away, and this gig's going off in 10 minutes. What do I do? No problem. Just unplug it, plug it back into the same port where it was plugged, and it'll recognize it, come right up, no problem. If you don't remember which one it was plugged in, just keep on plugging, and sooner or later you'll find the one and it'll say, okay, yeah, I'm happy now. Lights will come on, LS light starts flashing, show goes off.